TSN's Motoring 94 is brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, one tough motor oil. And Midas. For brake, exhaust, suspension, and steering service, trust your car to Midas.
You know, I guess we've all been to a trade show at one time or another, be it the car show or the home show or the boat show or the fishing show and so on. Well, this week we find ourselves at the Canadian International Automotive Show in Toronto. And they tell me that if you work in the automotive world, this is the place to be. Whether you're looking for something like, I don't know, a little wrench like this, or something just a little bigger like this.
This is the Canadian Aftermarket Show. It's the only one of its kind in Canada. It's held every 2 years. It alternates Toronto and Montreal. So the next show will be back in Montreal in 1996. It's the exhibitors are manufacturers and rebuilders of automotive parts, accessories, tools, and service equipment. There are 960 booths approximately with 360 exhibitors. And in terms of the exhibitors are primarily Canadian companies, but there are a lot of U.S. companies here also. And also many of the Canadian companies are subsidiaries of multinationals based in the U.S. We also have a foreign buyer contingent that comes to our show. We have about 400 foreign buyers coming from over 40 countries around the world. In terms of the domestic customers, this is for trade only. And we pre-registered 21,000 people for this show. So I would expect after 3 days is over, we will have had 25,000 customers through. That's distributors, wholesalers, and retail trades.
Every manufacturer of any aftermarket product is here. And if they're not here, they're crazy, because everybody comes to this show. People travel from the States all over Canada just to see all these displays. There's no room for the public in here. They were thinking of inviting them on Monday, but there's really no room. See, on Monday we bring in the trade students, because they're the customers of tomorrow, and they take up most of the show. They bring in busloads and busloads, you know, from George Brown College and Georgian College. And everybody comes here because it's the mecca for automotive aftermarket.
Maybe a tough question. How do you gauge the success of a show like this?
I gauge it by the smiles on the exhibitors' faces, and I think if you go around this show and talk to the exhibitors, they're smiling. So traffic is up, business is up, and it's been a good show. That's really how you measure it.
Prior to getting started, I would like to...
Meanwhile, a crowd is gathering to watch a unique competition between two of NASCAR's premier engine builders, Jeff Wilson and Dick Rahilly. The challenge? To build a 5.8-liter Ford engine.
Well, basically the engine is stripped clean to the block. Now the valves assemblies are in the cylinder head. The piston rings are on the pistons, but other than that, it's a complete assembly. The crank is out of the engine, the bearings are out of the engine. It's a complete assembly.
How long do you think it'll take them?
Well, if I don't talk to them very much, it'll take them 20 minutes. Hopefully we can stretch it out about 45 minutes. And oddly enough, these things will fire within a few seconds of each other.
They have to run.
The engine has to fire and run for 60 seconds to be a winner.
We build about 50, 60 engines a year, sometimes more, sometimes as many as 75. The main thing is to make sure you just don't leave anything loose or get the rod caps crossed up in the mains, get them on backwards, get the pistons in upside down where the valves will hit.
For people watching right now who just drive their car for pleasure or whatever, what's the best piece of advice you could give them for maintaining that engine once it's going?
Well, you know, it comes back to the simple oil change. You know, it seems to me like people say how well a Mercedes-Benz lasts or a BMW and how great these things are. But if you ever look at the service required on these cars, it's very extensive. The people in America seem to want to buy a car, jump in it, and drive it. They don't want to grease the ball joints. They don't want to change the oil. They don't really have the love for the automobile that they should. And if they would just spend probably $50, $60 a year on the car, they could probably double or triple the life of the car.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
This week on Test Drive, we look at the 1995 Hyundai Sonata. Now, this car has been re-engineered from the road up, and as you're about to find out, its beauty is more than skin deep. One of the major improvements in the new Sonata is the chassis. It is longer in the wheelbase, wider in the track, and offers better rigidity than the old model. Up front, the suspension consists of McPherson struts with a sway bar and a geometry designed to limit dive and squat. In back, there's a multi-link trailing arm design with gas pressurized shocks. Combine the new chassis with the suspension and the benefits become evident immediately. During the pylon test, the Sonata proved to be a capable performer. While there is a fair amount of body roll during transition, it never becomes unmanageable. Understeer is controlled, and only at the limit does it become evident. The other thing the Sonata has going in its favour is the quick ratio power steering. The turn-in is prompt and road feel better than anticipated. On the road, the ride is comfortable, with even larger bumps being swallowed in stride. Worthy of mention is the fact that there is little harshness as you cross expansion joints. This aspect was very evident in the old model. As I suggested off the top, the improvements to the Sonata go much more than just the body panels. Indeed, one of the more significant improvements is right here. The four-cylinder engine now produces 137 horsepower, which is 11 more than last year. That, when matched with the automatic transmission, gives you 0 to 60 times in the region of 12 seconds. Now, while that's not really quick, it's more than adequate for a four-door family sedan. As well as the improved horsepower, the revamped 2-litre twin cam produces 129 pounds-feet of torque, which is up 6 from last year. These improved figures are down to a number of internal upgrades. The valve timing, ignition timing, intake ports and engine control module have all been reworked. As welcome as the additional power is, the more important factor is the improved fuel economy and lower emissions. Matched with this engine is a dual-mode 4-speed auto box, complete with an on-off button for the overdrive. Unlike many other dual-mode trannies, there is a significant difference in the shift characteristics between power and normal. During the test, this drivetrain combination averaged 9.3 litres per 100 kilometres or 30 miles per gallon. Stopping power is provided by a disc drum setup. The pedal feel is good and repeated stops revealed little in the way of fade. For the record, we required 119 feet to stop from 80k. A very worthwhile option is the 4-channel anti-lock brake system. As well as the advantages of ABS, you also get disc brakes at all 4 corners. My pet peeve on the Sonata has to do with the driver's seat. Even with these height adjusters all the way down, the chair still sits too high. I've got very little headroom. 6-footers would be bouncing off the ceiling. The other problem, even with the tilt steering all the way up, the underside of the steering wheel rim cuts off some of the dials. What they need to do is to drop the whole lot by about 1 inch. Aside from that, the rest of the interior has been well thought out, with the ergonomics being better than in the past. The only item that does not follow the user-friendly trend is the radio. It sits far too low down in the dash, which effectively puts it at the extremity of your reach. Elsewhere, the dash is comprehensive. The heater controls feature large, easy-to-use buttons for direction and a smooth slider for temperature. Standard equipment on the GLS model includes power locks, windows and mirrors, as well as cruise control. There are also a few welcome little extras: heated outside mirrors, adjustable upper seatbelt anchors and a well-placed dead pedal, to name a few. You'll also find dual airbags. The trunk on this Sonata has been well thought out. You've got 60/40 split folding rear seats that can be locked in the upright position.
The trunk floor has been nicely laid out so it's nice and roomy. But the real nice part about this thing, there's a little lever on the back end of the trunk latch. That allows you to override the remote inside the car. Now if you go to a hotel, give the guy the valet key, lock this, now anything that's in the trunk stays there. The deep dish style seats provide plenty of lateral support, and on an extended trip they prove to be surprisingly comfortable. The rear seat is large enough to accommodate 3 at a push, offers copious amounts of legroom, but as with the front seat, falls short on headroom. Well, that's it for this week's test drive. I think it's safe to say that Hyundai have done a very good job in redesigning the new Sonata, especially the engine. With the old model, the V6 was almost mandatory. The extra 11 horsepower in this 4-cylinder version make it a viable option. The result? You can save yourself some money. It's time to update our 3 long-term testers, the Subaru Impreza, the Volkswagen Jetta, and the Volvo 850 wagon. Specifically this week we're going to take a look in the parts basket, a very important item for any owner. We looked at the cost of a set of front pads and rotors as well as a rear light lens, an item easily damaged even at the shopping mall. The thing that came out of this comparison is that the initial purchase price of the vehicle has got little or nothing to do with the price of parts. Some will argue that this type of comparison is like comparing apples to oranges. I disagree because the likelihood of replacing one of these parts is very high, and when it comes time to replace something, original equipment is the only way to go.
We're back at the Canadian International Automotive Show in Toronto, and didn't I say we'd probably bump into Bill Gardner? Well, sure enough, here's Bill. I just knew you wouldn't be down at the shop with this show in town. Just tell me from your standpoint, I mean, do you feel like a kid in a candy store? I mean, this is a really big show from what we've been told.
Yeah, I mean, you know, your mind just starts running. There's a million things in here I could use if I had enough green to buy them. I'd have one of everything, but I'd need quite a bit bigger shop to fit it all in.
How big has this business grown, this aftermarket thing?
Ooh, it's really boomed. Although the aftermarket, as far as replacement parts for cars go, I mean, at this show you've got repair equipment as well as parts suppliers. But the parts suppliers have got a pretty tough go on some of these new vehicles because they're turning them upside down every couple of years, parts-wise. You know, different configurations, and you know, you don't have that crossover. Interchangeability of parts that isn't as wide as it used to be on the older cars.
Bill, it's no secret the economy has hurt a lot of businesses. Has it hurt the repair business, have you found?
It hasn't hurt my business, but it has changed it. You know, we're finding that cars are coming in on the tow truck a lot more often than they used to because people are just running them till they absolutely quit. And we're finding cars coming in for brake jobs where, you know, the brakes are completely worn out and you've got that awful grinding and scrunching noise when you step on the brake pedal. So, you know, they are leaving things till the last minute, but I wouldn't say it's hurt our business, it's just changed the nature of it somewhat. Although I know some guys in the repair business, they found their business is down, and, you know, cars are coming with longer and longer warranties, so, you know, that's keeping them at the dealership. So guys like me that are independent garage operators are, you know, a little bit tougher go these days.
Bargain Tires in Rexdale, Ontario turned out to be quite a bargain for 6 Toronto cab drivers. Yokohama Tires offered to install a brand new set of tires on each cab free of charge. But there was a catch, albeit a small one. The cabbies first agreed to become test drivers.
What's going on here is what we call the Aegis LS4 taxi tire test evaluation. What's it mean is it allows us a way of demonstrating the durability and control of our new Aegis LS4 tire. We've taken, as you can see here, we've taken 6 local cabs and we've equipped them with our new tire. We're putting the cars on the road, and somewhere over the next 6 months, or at the end of a 6 months period, we'll have accumulated somewhere in the vicinity of 60 to 80,000 kilometers, and we'll be able to demonstrate how long the tire will last. The tire carries a tread wear life warranty of 130,000 kilometers. The tire's been on the market for about 6 months now. In order to demonstrate how long it will last, we chose taxis, I guess, for two reasons. One is they put miles on quickly, and they're not exactly easy on their cars. It's all pretty well city miles, so it'll really show the durability factor of the tire. And we'll be able to tell if they'll go the distance or not.
Right now, I had my cab now going on 5 years, and I got 374,000 kilo on it.
You go through a lot of tires?
Oh yes, at least twice a year I go through tires.
Now, you're going to try extra hard to give these tires a rough time, or what?
You got that right. I'll try to do my best with them.
I have the car I drive for about 22 years. This car in particular has 452,000 clicks on it.
400?
452,000. And I go through maybe a set of tires or 4 tires a year. Hopefully these will last me a year and a half, and I'm sure they will.
Your car's in good shape after that many?
Oh, absolutely. Take care of it, change the oil, and clean it up once in a while. Looks beautiful, and it runs beautiful. It's a 305 motor GM, I wouldn't change it.
How long do they last for?
They can last you as 850, a million, if you take care of it.
New for 94 is a second version of BMW's flagship, the 8 Series. This new version uses the same potent 4-liter V8 engine found in the 540. Matched with this engine is a 3-mode 5-speed automatic transmission. Standard equipment includes dual airbags, anti-lock brakes, traction control, and active rear suspension. The suspension is active in the sense that the rear wheels are steered to ensure optimum performance and stability when you use the 840 to its full potential. Inside, the driver is treated to every conceivable luxury item. Along with the usual power items, you'll find a power tilt and telescope for the steering wheel, a 6-pack CD player, and dual climate controls. The long list ends with a toolkit. The downside to the car is the shallow trunk and the pop-up headlights. The headlights destroy that magnificent front-end profile and create a lot of additional drag.
As you might expect, we are very proud and confident in these new products. But we clearly recognize that this decade of the 90s is going to be very, very competitive indeed. They're going to be tough and challenging times for us and for the other players in the automotive business.
For the first time in this decade, Ford has awarded bonuses to its top executives. Leading the list is Ford's new chairman, Alex Trotman. His bonus, a cool $1 million, and his salary has gone from $385,000 in 1992 to $1.5 million when he was named chairman last fall, an increase of almost 400%. And you'll wonder why cars cost so much. First quarter results for Detroit's big 3 automakers indicate Ford will have no problem paying those big bonuses. In fact, General Motors and Chrysler could be thinking of doing the same. Meanwhile, Ford has elected to keep the Aerostar in its lineup, despite rumors that Ford would discontinue production. The announcement didn't come as a surprise, as the Aerostar is the only Ford minivan suitable for commercial purposes. Neither the Villager or Windstar are offered with a commercial package.
Our Midas tip of the week will help your engine keep its cool. One of the most basic and important things that so many people overlook is coolant and oil level checking. Key thing to remember here, always check coolant level with a cold engine. If the engine is hot and has been running, you want to wait a minimum 1 hour before you try and touch this system. Now most cars today have an opaque coolant reservoir, and if I shake the car a bit, I can actually see the level in that container without having to remove the cap. Now if it's low, I'll remove the cap and add equal parts of antifreeze and water. If this reservoir has become empty though, I have to verify the level in the red because I don't know. It could be right here or it could be empty too. So there again, feel it, make sure it's cool, press down on the radiator cap and twist to the left and it'll come off. Set it aside, you can see the coolant level in this red. This one happens to be completely full. Now in a pinch, you can use water only to fill this system so that you can limp it back to the shop or whatever. But it should be 50-50 mixture of antifreeze and water. But water's better than nothing in a pinch. That's your Midas tip of the week.
A white GM van, smoked glass. I'll bet you I know what's inside that van. Stick around and find out next on Kenzies Corner.
Kenzies Corner with Jim Kenzie.
If you pass a van that looks like this one on Ontario highways, smile, you might be on photo radar. Now, the Ontario Provincial Police is convinced that photo radar will save lives. I'm not so sure, so I asked the Calgary Police Service how successful their program of photo radar has been, and they sent me some numbers. In 1989, they took about 8,000 pictures, and there were about 38 car crash deaths. In 1990, they upped photo radar to 11,000 summonses, and 42 people died. Now, that's progress. In 1991, the counts were 14,000 summonses and 48 deaths. That's 10 more than the baseline year. Undaunted, the Calgary police reloaded the cameras, took 24,000 pictures, and 47 people died. Now, that was one less than the year before, but still way more than 1989. Well, if the medicine is making the patient sicker, give the patient more medicine. So in 1993, they wrote a phenomenal 60,000 summonses, and 36 people died. And now they're claiming a 23% reduction from the year before. But wait a minute, all those 200,000 some odd summonses have just brought the death rate back to where it was before they even used photo radar. Now, I'm not saying those additional 23 people killed had anything to do with photo radar. What I am saying is that speed limit enforcement isn't the issue. At the same time, the Calgary Police Service reduced the number of days of their ride check stop operation designed to get drunk drivers off the road. In other words, resources are being directed to photo radar, which raises revenue, and away from drunk driving programs, which really help save lives. So BC, Calgary, Ontario, and Saskatchewan pretty soon, give your heads a shake. Stop worrying about the speed your drivers are driving at and get after the people that are really killing themselves on the highway. I'm Jim Kenzie.
We're back here at the Canadian International Automotive Show in Toronto. We're running out of time, but joining me right now is Pat Lunny of the Clip Light Manufacturing Company of Canada. And Pat, you've got something in your hand. It looks like something Darth Vader might have it or something. What is it?
For all intents and purposes, it's a special application black light. We use it to help detect fluid system leaks in automotive equipment. It's based on adding a fluorescent additive, or a dye if you like, into the host system, being it oil or coolant or AC systems, and then hooking up the light, the 12-volt light to the car, and then scoping it and actually be able to see the point of leak. First time, every time.
Okay, we've got time for one more product. This is a hand cleaner, something mechanics use a lot, but this one's kind of special, you see, and very popular, they tell me. This one has lanolin in it, you know, to keep the hands soft. And we all thought mechanics were tough guys. I don't know. Anyway, that's it for now. We'll see you next week for more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
What did you say about mechanics, boy?
TSN's Motoring 94 has been brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, one tough motor oil. And Midas. For brake, exhaust, suspension, and steering service, trust your car to Midas.